Now that we have seen both the reveal trailer along with gameplay, I was able to sit down in a phone interview with Toys for Bob's creative director, Paul Yan. Let's talk about it.
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new exclusive video. Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time has shocked us over the past bit, from a trailer to gameplay, which I have been covering on the channel like crazy. So if you like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro news, make sure to subscribe. But now I was able to get an exclusive interview with Paul Yan, the creative director on this project over at Toys for Bob. You might recognize him as the creative director of Spyro's comeback in the Reignited trilogy, but now he has his eyes set on carving a brand new path for a brand new journey for our little marsupial. While I was able to record the interview, I was asked to not actually use the direct audio from Paul Yan, which I will say is a little bit of a stumbling block, but that's okay because I was able to transcribe the whole interview. So you will hear my live question and then I will post the direct quote on screen and read it out loud. I will also note that for grammar purposes, quotes will only be slightly adjusted, but the integrity will be the same. I am currently in talks with getting the full transcript online in its raw form, and when it is, I'll make sure to put it in the description below so you can read everything in its original form. Now, onto the interview. Alright, so first off, I just gotta say that I was absolutely shocked when I found out that it was Toys for Bob that was doing Crash Bandicoot. That was that was really shocking for me, but my first question stems from that is, what was it like working on Spyro Reignited and now shifting over to Crash Bandicoot 4? What was that transition like? There are so many emotions that come with that, and one is that it's such an honor to be working on these classic 90s mascots, and it's so exciting to see that its fans are wanting to resurface them in a relevant and modern way, so it's great to see that. Spyro and Crash are such vastly different experiences. One is open and full of exploration. It's calm and it's soft. You go about it at your own pace. Crash has a totally rich universe, but is focused and really dense. It demands precision and has a very specific rhythm and pace. We had the great pleasure of helping make Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and CTR, so we're absolutely familiar with Crash himself, but taking the lead on this project, it was really exciting. And you know, we actually applied some of the things that we did with Spyro, and that's just dive into the original game and play all of it and refamiliarize ourselves with the games and then figure out exactly where we want to extend on, blow out, and make bigger. And speaking of that as well, Crash, as you know, it's got such a rich history in terms of like story and lore. You got games that came after Naughty Dog, from Wrath of Cortex, Mind Over Mutant, and many others. And now this one's called Crash Bandicoot 4, which seems like we're kind of rewinding back a little bit. Is there going to be these games like that came out post Naughty Dog that are going to be referenced at all? Or is this kind of seen as like a soft reboot in general? I mean, technically, this is the 8th game in the line, but we are very deliberately calling this Crash 4. There is something really special about those original games, and it was definitely a high point in the series, both critically and commercially. For us, chronologically, that's where the events pick up, but this game is called Crash 4, It's About Time, and there are multiple timelines in this multiverse, and the events that happen after Crash Warped, they did happen, but they may have happened in other alternative timelines that may be reflected in some subtle ways in this. But this is a game that just picked up right after Crash 3 Warped, so we're going to see Uka Uka, Entropy, and Neo-Cortex, just recently emerging from the planet that they were banished on. Well, that's really cool to think about there being almost like a multiverse in a sense. So it seems that Crash's design and the art style of the game has changed from the Insane Trilogy and even the CTR designs. What differences did you make from the Insane design to what this is going to be, and what inspired some of those changes? Well, the one thing that was important to us was to make sure that we set apart the aesthetics of the remasters to this new game. We are trying to put a stake in the ground to step forth a new future to Crash. There's a lot that those games did right in terms of Crash's design, and And so before we jump into what are the changes, we wanted to preserve a lot of things about Crash's silhouette. He's very angular. There's an expressiveness that came with Crash. Naughty Dog's inspiration was Looney Tunes, so we wanted to go back to that source and make sure that the model that we were creating had the capability of pushing that type of aesthetic to get that Chuck Jones look in our character. And then we got a very specific aesthetic that we apply more broadly to the entire world and the way in which we utilize the game engine's renderer. So for us, to get into the art direction side of things, we wanted to make sure that our shapes were really bold and clear, and we want to play with those and really have zany ways of using them. And we want to reduce the amount of texture and high frequency texture detail so that you have more pleasing, softer gradients. They're just easier on the eyes. So we learned a lot from the Reignited trilogy in terms of how do you keep reverence to the original design that came before us, but still providing something new that sparks some freshness that balances with the familiarity at the same time. Now, Crash is known for, he's jumping and is spinning and some basic platforming, but is there going to be new platforming elements that are going to be added to the game, and what are they? Don't forget Slide and Belly Slam. All those classic Crash moves are back. All those are going to be in the game. He's also learned a couple more locomotive tricks. There's going to be wall running, there's going to be rail grinds, and he's going to have some timing challenges with rope swings as well. Quantum masks are a huge focus on this game. Now that Cortex, Entropy, and Uka Uka have torn a hole in the fabric of this multiverse, the way to restore balance here is to reunite the 4 quantum masks, and each of them, as they are collected, also grant Crash and Coco new locomotion abilities. The 2 that we are talking about today is the Time Mask. Her name is Kapuluna. Side note, we are still unsure on the name here, so we might get corrected later on. This is CGE talking. Back to Paul. She gives Crash the ability to slow down time to a crawl and get past really fast hazards, and also to get past nitro crates. Normally when nitro crates traditionally are touched, they go boom, you explode. There's no way around that. You just have to dodge them. But Kapuluna gives you the opportunity to be able to slow down time so that you can touch a nitro crate and there is a small window of opportunity for you to get out of the way before it explodes, because you're watching it all happen in ultra slow-mo. So that gives you a new way of overcoming that obstacle. The second mask that we are talking about today is the Gravity Mask. His name is Ika Ika, and the Gravity Mask gives Crash the ability to flip the direction of gravity, so that you can now run upside down on walls. So it's a whole new head-scratching way of overcoming certain impossible obstacles. Well, that sounds absolutely impressive and completely different for Crash, but also like something that I feel is kind of a bit of a refresher. But Crash has had, in all the different games, Crash has had a number of ways to traverse and choose different levels, whether it's through like hub worlds or whatnot, like Crash 2 and 3, while Twinsanity was more open, and then Mind Over Mutant had chapters. How is this game going to handle like when you choose your levels and how you traverse the overworld and such? Yeah, you said the word hub there. We took that and aspects from the first game. In between levels, you will be traveling through what we'll be calling the dimensional map. As you are hopping between different dimensions and time traveling between different places, this is the place that you're going to be landing back on. And the levels are presented in a linear fashion, just like Crash 1. That gives us 2 advantages. One is that the story can be presented in a more reliable way, and the narrative can build on itself on a more focused way. And the second is that when we think more about difficulty and the ramping of challenge, we can be more precise about when we introduce one mechanic in one level, and we know once that we've successfully overcome it, we can layer that to make it more spicy and interesting in the next subsequent levels. That's going to be very interesting to see. Now, for the first time in a really long time, players will actually be able to play as a Cortex in a Crash Bandicoot game. How does his missions and playstyle work compared to Crash's? Cortex's gameplay is really exciting because it's completely different from Crash. Crash and Coco at any point in time can switch. They share the same movesets. They are both bandicoots. They can do the same things. But Cortex, in place of double jump, has the ability to dash forward. He's got like a mini flight of sorts. Second thing that he's got is his transmodifying gun, and he has the ability to shoot at hazards and convert them into platforms. there's two types of platforms that he can convert hazards into. One is a static platform, and the second is a bouncy platform. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of neat, strategic, more head-scratchy types of ways to approach a level. So his levels are designed to be a little more puzzly, because the timing of when you convert a hazard into a platform is really important. The type of platform that you can convert into is also very important. So this is going to freshen things up, and it's a very different change of pace than playing with Crash. So I can see a lot of opportunity for really interesting and diverse gameplay. Now, I had read that there is this modern and retro mode. Could you fill us in more on what that exactly is and what the difference is and how it affects gameplay? So when we started developing the game initially, we continued and inherited the original system of limited lives with Crash 1, 2, and 3. So as you know, you can stock an amount of lives as you pick up the Crash mugs, or collect 100 Wumpa, you earn additional lives. But when all of those lives expire, you get a hard reset to the beginning of the level if you choose to continue. In the studio, there's been a split between who prefers playing that way versus what we had, which was infinite lives. So that's where the distinction between modern and retro comes in. In retro, we are keeping it exactly the same as the original life system, what has been done for Crash 1, 2, and 3, a limited life system. Modern mode is actually the way we think the preferable way of playing it. You have the choice, and that unlocks unlimited lives. And the way that we are doing that is that as you move past certain challenges, if you fail, we aren't going to hard reset you to the very beginning of it. However, we are logging the amount of times you are dying, and so there is now a new clear gem award at the end of a level if you have successfully achieved it in under a certain amount of max deaths to be able to achieve that level's clear gem. So we definitely want to incentivize you to try and perfect the level, but try and also make the game a little bit more approachable for a wider audience, and at the same time provide the option for people who want the classic retro experience to have it as well. That's the difference between the two. So obviously Crash got redesigned, and I would assume, you know, Coco and Cortex did. Which redesign do you think is going to shock fans most? Because I'm sure that there are some designs that are subtly redesigned, but because obviously we probably won't see it, but what design do you think fans are going to look at and just be like, whoa? Our goal in designing the characters is to not shock fans. We try to be very respectful of character designs that came before us, but I do think that fans are going to be pleasantly surprised by some of the alternative timelines that spill into this adventure. That's all I can say about that. Yeah, final question, and it's just a little fun question. And again, it might get a no from this or a no answer, but is there a chance that we're going to see a particular purple dragon in this game as an Easter egg in some way, shape, or form? There's absolutely a chance for that. Thank you all so much for listening in through this interview. I wish it was in person, but it is what it is. The world's kind of on fire, but hopefully I'll be able to get an in-person interview with Paul sometime in the future. I hope, anyway. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all things Crash Bandicoot. A huge thank you to all those who support the channel through Patreon and being a sponsor on the channel. If you'd like to help it out, check out the links in the description below, where you can buy some CGE merch or become a Patreon. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming and nostalgic content. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video.